Welcome to this week's version of Nichols and Dimes, our weekly video series. The quote of the week this week comes from the late, great Steve Jobs, who talked about change. And Steve said, "The ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do." The ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Well, he is absolutely correct. And change is one of the topics I wanted to talk about today. So you may have noticed in the news most recently a digital art piece known as Every Day's The First 5,000 Days was sold at an auction for $69,350,000. It was sold through a higher-end auction house called Christie's. Now, what in the world is digital art? Well, first is let me take you to the picture of what this thing actually looks like. So this was the piece, the digital art piece that sold for $69 million. So times are a-changin'. And if I would have told you 10 or 20 years ago that a piece of digital art, you may have not even known at the time what that was, but a piece of digital art would have sold for $69 million, you may have thought I was crazy. And I often say, well, to that end, if 20 years ago you told me I would have paid $4 to $5 for a cup of coffee at Starbucks, I also probably thought you were crazy. But what it does speak to is changing times. So the changing of times, particularly with an investment opportunity. So as you know, changes are always happening around us. So if you own traditional investments like a traditional stock and or bond portfolio, you may be left with subpar returns over time. So going back to the digital art that we just referenced, that we just saw. So I'm going to read you a few pieces from the article. So this is absolutely incredible. A bidding war exploded last week to close at the final price on that digital piece of $69 million. And again, it was dubbed Every Day's The First 5,000 Days by the artist, a digital artist known as Beeple. His real name is Mike Winkleman. So the first 10 minutes of the sale, Christie's had more than 100 bids placed. And they went from an opening bid of $100 to more than $1 million. We had bidders, they say, from 7 different countries. What's a really compelling statistic, and probably the most amazing thing to me, the gentleman said here, referencing this, is that only 3 of those bidders were previously known to Christie's. So everyone else was brand new. Incredible. So obviously this auction and this piece of digital art attracted a lot of money and a lot of interest and sold for an astronomical sum. So again, I'm bringing this up because of change. Clearly, the art world has changed permanently. Now, whether this is, whether we look back at this thing, this was a crazy investment or not, is anyone's guess, or only, of course, time will tell. But the reality is that, again, back in the day, artwork, a traditional artwork, was where the money flowed to, assets, cash flowed to, and drove up the price of the asset. Obviously, fine art is still an attractive long-term investment, but again, digital art is the new thing through what's called NFTs, fungible tokens. Again, that's something that's beyond the scope of this video. But I want to ask you this, is that are you changing your portfolio with the times? And what I specifically mean is I reference a traditional stock bond allocation. The Federal Reserve and fiat currencies, so sovereign governments around the world, have been printing trillions of dollars and been trillions of their own fiat currencies. So what ends up happening is a belief about what is a safe haven asset. In the U.S., it's the dollar. What is belief about what the safe haven asset is starting to change. So many people have started transitioning money out of savings account, out of traditional dollar investments to more safe haven assets because they don't think the dollar is a safe haven asset anymore. So for 5,000 years, that safe haven asset was gold. Over the last, probably 12 months, there's a new thinking that some digital currencies are going to start being the long-term safe haven assets. So again, I'm not saying to you that bonds are bad or good necessarily, and nor am I saying that digital currencies are bad or good. What I am saying is that people, the investment world, and in particular institutions, have started changing the way they're thinking about what are good long-term investments or what are not good long-term investments. So again, my question to you is, are you changing with the current change that we see in the environment? You may or may not be. In my opinion, if you have traditional investment portfolios that used to work for the last 20, 30, or even 40 years, I would suggest you reconsider what you're investing in, because the investments that were successful over the last 10 plus years, 20 and 30 years, may not be the investments that you should own going forward, especially when there's a lot of concern about higher inflation. We've seen over the last 6 months, gas prices shoot through the roof. Again, there's other commodity prices that are going higher. There's a lot of concern about inflation. So is your portfolio positioned to address that as well? Again, with the changing times. That's my question to you, something to think about. To that end, if you would like a second opinion on your portfolio to determine if you are in the right investments to offset inflation, for example, or to even offset and to address the changing times economically and what we're doing with the printing of money, if you will, devaluating the dollar and other currencies, you could send me an email, cnichols@nicholswealth.com, or go on our website at nicholswealth.com to learn more about our services and what we do. Thanks again for watching, and I wish you a great day. Bye-bye.